Welcome to Curse Breakers, where we leverage astrology to empower you. I'm Jacki Smith, and I'm here with my co-host and chief astrologer, Storm Cestavani. This show is sponsored by Coventry Creations, where they have magical solutions for your everyday issues, and really, they make the best candles around. Hi, Storm.
Hey, what's up?
I hear Mars is going retrograde.
Well, we have Mercury that's retrograde now, and I was thinking yesterday about how to parlay this, okay? And then I came up with a little bit of a metaphor. Mercury retrograde is kind of like when you have an annoying cold.
Okay.
Mars retrograde is like having influenza. So, it's a different level of intensity that goes along with it. And I think that part of the reason for it is that Mercury retrograde happens so frequently, Jacki, that there's kind of like more of an attunement within our body for Mercury retrograde.
Okay, that's like having a little cold. You have sniffles for the day.
Yeah, you have sniffles for the day.
3 weeks.
It's annoying, but you handle it by drinking more water, Mars retrograde is a little bit more intense because of the fact that it only happens once every 2 years. So it can bring about particular themes that are much more interesting. And even though especially when you're dealing with the inner planets, Jacki, which is, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, but even more so the first three, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, really sticking with those RE words is important, okay, because that gives you kind of a clue of how to manage this particular energy. Now, I've got a question for you, Jacki, just a crazy question. Did you see Wicked yet?
No, I haven't seen the movie. I have had the privilege of seeing the stage play, and I did read the book. So, although I'm not a theater kid. I mean, I love going to the theater. I'm just, not that theater kid. Like my daughter's amazing theater kid.
So at least you're knowledgeable. Well, Wicked came out. I did see it. It's great.
You did?
I think they did a great job. The only thing that I didn't like, of course, the movie is very, very long. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Oh, that's a long movie.
Which, when you get up there in age and you have to pee every 15 minutes, that's not good. The second thing is that it's part 1 and part 2. So there's going to be another 2 hour and 40 minute movie that's going to go along with it.
Oh, it is part 1 and part. Okay.
Yeah. So there's part.
I mean, you can't get away from the Wicked marketing ever anywhere. Right. They're doing an amazing job.
We have our own version.
Okay.
Yeah, we have our own version of that. So,
Life according to Wicked. Got it.
But one of the things that I was thinking about as I was sitting in the movie theater, Jacki, is I was thinking about there's a character in Wicked which is called Burr. And of course, Burr is in The Wizard of Oz, which if you have not seen that one yet, I don't know what planet you live on. It's probably Mars. But is the Cowardly Lion from The Wizard of Oz. And I thought that the Cowardly Lion was the perfect metaphor for Mars retrograde.
Oh, of course, because the Leo,
Yeah, lions are Leo, and it's going to be in Leo.
Right.
But overall, generally, one of the things that I do when I'm working with mythological images, mainly because of the fact that there's a particular process in Jungian analysis, which I'm a Jungian, and we will take certain images and apply them to other images, and it's kind of in this kind of syncretic way, which is called amplification. And then you amplify images in order to understand another image better. So with the Cowardly Lion, looking at the Cowardly Lion... You mean
compare and contrast?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. We call it amplification because, when you're a psychology major, you need bigger words. It's like the word for polar opposites in Jungian psychology is called enantiodromia. So there's
that's so fancy. Here's your $5.
Yes, $5 word for the week, enantiodromia.
That's why it's not even a $2 word. It's
It's a
$5.
$5. Yeah, $5
You
word.
got a raise.
Amplification is the $2 word. So I thought that this was a perfect image to kind of work through. And, what we're going to do through this particular episode is help people put their paws on.
Okay.
Because when Mars goes retrograde, it's, Mars is the warrior planet. And it's kind of like if the warrior decides to call a timeout. Now, Jackie, I'm not a sports buff, but I am sure that they only call in timeouts on the sports field if there's a problem. I don't think if everything is going perfect and wonderful that they're going to call any timeouts.
Maybe.
I mean, maybe some sports buffs can educate us on this. They can contact us through social media. And one thing that I want to do before we even go further, Jackie, is tell people about the calendar and that it's updated for December.
Oh, hey. If you're listening to the show, check out our show notes and you're going to see a link to the Google Calendar for Curse Breakers. And that has your astrology for the month in it. And it has not only what the aspects are, and then it has what the theme for the day is, what that means in your life, what candle could help, and what stone could help. And we have the entire month of December up for you. We're getting better.
Yes, we're getting better. And this also helps Jackie and I kind of tunnel focus on one particular energy of the particular week, because focusing on, there's some weeks that are coming up in January, Jackie, in which it would be a 3-hour show.
No one wants that.
Yeah, nobody wants that. So we're just going to focus on one that we think will really, really help you, and focus on issues that we think are important for the particular week. And then you can get the rest of it in your calendar. So we've provided it all. It's just in a different format.
I love this evolution because, in all honesty, you are the expert in astrology.
Mm-hmm.
I am the dangerous one. I know enough to kind of get it. But what's so cool is I'm learning a lot from this. We haven't really talked about Mars retrograde in depth before, you and I.
Right.
We've talked about it with, we got to, talk about this on social media, blah, blah, blah. And this is fun to talk about these things in depth because I need to do my research and reading beforehand as well. And I'm like, this makes so much sense. So then I when was the last time Mars was in retrograde? What was my life like? And I'm like, this makes so much sense.
Right.
So when was the last time Mars was in retrograde? Do you know offhand?
Not offhand, off the top of my head. It was 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago. Venus is every 18 months. Mercury is every 3 months. Mars is every 2 years. The outer planets, well, they're not really outer planets, they're inner planets, but Jupiter and Saturn, they go retrograde once a year. I mean, and so do all the rest of the outer planets.
And it all depends on the shape of their orbit, right?
Yes, it all depends on their orbit and their location to the sun.
Mm-hmm.
For example...
That's when we step into astronomy.
Yes, that's when you go into astronomy. For example, Mercury can only go as far as 30 degrees away from the sun, okay? When it hits that 30-degree point, that's when it begins its retrograde motion, okay? Until it's 30 degrees back from the sun, okay? And then it goes direct. Same thing with Venus, but Venus is 45 degrees. That's why a Venus retrograde is 6 weeks. Mars will be in retrograde.
You made me get out my compass and my slide rule and shit with that. So I don't know what all that means.
Yeah. So
I mean, not to be disrespectful. I was just going, where's my, all my dad's architectural tools to look at the angles and stuff.
So Mars will be retrograde until, let me look up the magic date for you all, February the 23rd. Okay. So it starts on Friday the 6th. On the 6th, and it's retrograde until February the 23rd. It's going to retrograde in 2 different signs, so it's going to start retrograding in Leo, and then it's going to backtrack into the sign of Cancer. So we're going to be dealing with 2 different energies. But, the main thing I think for people to know and to understand about Mars is that Mars is, of course, the action planet. It's what goes out into the world and gets us what we want. If we didn't have a Mars, none of us would have any desire to go outside of the house and get what we want.
It's the hunter, right?
Yeah, it's this very aggressive masculine planet. When Mars goes retrograde, it invites us to rethink how we assert ourselves and use our energy, basically. So it's kind of like this pause.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with that cowardly lion, there is every pun intended for people to put their paws on. Jacki, I think that where to start, I think, would be with Mars retrograde in Leo. You down for that?
Yeah.
First of all, Mars in Leo is bold, it's passionate, it's focused on self-expression and leadership. It's kind of like a super Mars. It's really driven. I own one, a Mars in Leo, and so does Jacki, by the way. We both have Mars in Leo.
You know what? You know what I call Mars in Leo?
What?
Ta-da! It's that when you're really expressing your Mars in Leo, then you're inspirational. People want to be around you. They want to be in that flame, that energy, and the self-expression part is like it's a powerful self-expression. It's not just like, this is my truth, deal with it. It's more like, hey, it's something that really, it makes you gregarious and brings people towards you. Am I wrong?
No, you're right, because it's ruled by the sun. So there's a particular level of spotlight that's going to be automatically on it. Okay, so it wants the grand stage. It wants to do big things, Mars and Leo. It doesn't want to do little tiny things.
So with it being in retrograde,
basically that big, huge, gigantic flame is going to be dimmed, girl. It's going to be dimmed.
Okay, so maybe a lack of energy.
It's about turning the energy inward mainly. Now, I had to think about that for a long time, because I think that it is a particular term, Jacki, that is widely used in metaphysical circles for us to turn inward. But really, what does that even mean? Turn inward. That the expression is going to be inside of us, not externally, which would be outside.
Which is hard for an external expressor.
It's also hard for our particular culture, because we're not an internal culture by nature. We're an external culture.
Okay, so with that turning inward and thinking about my own life, and I've been even before this Mars retrograde kind of thing, this whole year has been about taking care of the inner Jacki, and so I've been turning inward and having to really resist volunteering, being a part of a bigger group, which inevitably leads me to volunteering more. I can help with that. And to be honest with you, turning inward allows me to process all the thoughts and the creativity I have already expressed, and then see how I want to really continue to communicate or manifest. I'm like, so to me, my Mars in Leo goes, hey guys, I got this great idea. Blah, 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 blah. Oh my God, this is a great idea. And then I walk away, and then I go, oh, you know what? I got another great idea. And there's no time to execute any of those ideas. So really the turning inward means, what this is saying to me is that maybe I have a little time to execute them, Actually,
I actually wrote down 4 things, Jacki, that I thought that Mars retrograde turning inward might look like. Okay. Number 1 is pause the hustle. Again, every pun intended. Instead of forcing progress, you take a step back to reflect. In other words, kind of like, why is this project important to you? Okay. Are you pursuing it out of passion or obligation? Okay, that's kind of 1. So pause the hustle. Number 2, examine emotional triggers. For example, if you're feeling angry or frustrated, ask yourself, what's really beneath this? Is it the fear of failure, impatience, or pressure to meet external expectations overall? Okay.
Like it.
Number 3, reevaluate your strategy. Perhaps, as we're going along, things happen and life changes and the world changes. And sometimes we need to approach things from a mindset of adjustment. Are you overcomplicating things? Are you aligned with your true goals, or are you chasing something that no longer resonates with you even?
Oh,
Okay.
that is so critical to have this time to do that. I love this.
Absolutely. And number 4 is focus on your personal growth, which is to use this time to work on skills or habits that support long-term success. So in other words, it's the stepping back with that one, Jackie, and realizing that sometimes we need to manage our energy better. Okay. I know that I need to, because I have none at the moment. And we need to practice more patience. Okay. And realizing that, just because things are not going as fast as we want them to, that does not mean that we're failing. And it isn't a reason for us to fall into fear. It's time for us to be patient and allow the process to develop on its own. Okay. And what this does is it kind of reminds me of a tool that you actually taught me. And, the two of us actually worked on a tarot spread for it, which was the Why Is That Tarot spread. Many years ago, in regards to using prompts.
That is in the Coventry Magic book. Yep.
Right.
So all this stuff that you're talking about, keep going on the Why Is That Tarot spread, and I'm going to share with you my other thoughts.
Sure.
Keep going.
No, I think that it is just drilling down and, asking yourself several questions. Why are you feeling frustrated? Well, I feel frustrated because things aren't going the way that I want them to. Why are they not going the way you want them to? Well, because my neighbor next door keeps running their damn lawnmower at 8 o'clock in the morning when I'm trying to get something done. What is a way to effectively deal with that? Ask them if they can do it at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
So getting to the why is that, or maybe I need to adjust my schedule a little to deal with the externals that are happening in my life that I have no control over.
Exactly. And that journal. So if this is a time of inner work, journaling, I mean, that's what we're talking about, journaling and really writing for yourself. It's so interesting that this is starting like now, because I did just go get a paper journal for myself because I've been using my Remarkable and I love it. It's great. And I just need paper and pen right now, that whole feeling of
There's
paper
nothing
and pen.
better. I have a Remarkable, as you know. We both have them.
Mm-hmm.
There still is just nothing about creating on paper. I mean, it cannot replace.
I've been trying to journal in my Remarkable, but it's not the right feeling.
Yeah,
it's just so. I mean, I didn't realize how tactile I was. Thank you very much. But
right.
But it's also when I don't know if you know this about me, but I have been a long-term poetry writer.
No, I never knew this.
Okay, so at different
How have you been hiding this for me for 15 years? What the hell is wrong with you? That was like me when I told you, I have a confession to make to you, Jackie. I watch wrestling.
Yeah, no, it's like, what? So at different points in my life, when things are really confusing and I just can't take it. And there's also times in my life where I had a lot of time to myself. I would just get a random 50-cent, 99-cent spiral notebook and just write. And it started to become poetry. Because here's the beautiful thing about poetry is you can hide a lot of stuff in that. You can change the words and you can be very expressive. Now, I haven't written poetry in a long time. I kind of stopped writing poetry when I was writing, I started like doing more articles and other types of stuff. Like it's two different parts of the brain, but I miss that flow. So, and let me tell you, I'm not saying it's good poetry. I'm just saying it is. So it would be a lot of streams of consciousness or streams of insanity, and then it would like start to coalesce. And so that poetry is my brain like coalescing together. None of it published. It's okay. Not interested in that because it's just for me. So,
right.
so this whole thing about the journaling and with Mars going retrograde and things to help support that, I did prep without knowing I was prepping.
Yeah, I think that there is a natural thing that occurs in the universe, Jackie, in which our bodies which have been attuned to these planets, whether we like it or not, since the moment that we were born. Okay. So I think that there is a natural thing that happens sometimes inwardly that prepares us for this particular stuff. And, some of the curses that I think that people will be dealing with Mars retrograde in Leo is like frustration with stalled projects, ego clashes, and the need for external validation. Difficulty maintaining momentum, especially if you're doing something in a public sphere.
Yes. Yeah, I think that those are really on point with Mars retrograde in Leo and what to expect. And don't forget that it's not only you are experiencing Mars retrograde, it's the people in your life are also experiencing it.
Everybody's going through it. And one of the things that I noted here, Jacki, is that Leo's lessons are really about courage. And even, Jacki, which you've had a front row seat to my evolution over the past 2 decades, okay, you can see, and I am a Leo, you can see how that courage theme comes up again and again and again and again and again. And I think that, that this is something, Leo's lessons are about courage, not just in action, but in honesty within oneself. And I think that we often...
Hey, say that again? Because I think this needs to be said again, deliberately, slowly, and called out. Say it again.
Leo's lessons are about courage, not just in action, but in honesty with oneself.
Within honesty within oneself.
Mm-hmm.
I think having courage to take action for a lot of people is, expected. It's like, oh yeah, there's courage. There it is. I had courage, which is not an absence of fear. It's going ahead with it anyway. But the courage for that inner work, that inner knowledge, that inner, like, oh wait, I was the jerk in the situation, or I could have handled it better.
Right.
Because we put our courage on for the external process. And so I can see how Mars retrograde in Leo is affecting this. So we put our courage on like, okay, these people at work are jerks and blah, 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 and I'm going to get them, blah, blah. And so then you go in there and you continue the war.
Yeah. And I think that this is the point that I want to draw from the Wizard of Oz itself, Jacki, is that, the lion already has the courage. Okay. He already has it. He doesn't need the wizard to give him anything external. And he doesn't. The wizard not once says, oh, here is this sword, take this and battle the wicked witch. What the process of the cowardly lion is the realization that it's been in him all along. In other words, something needs to be reactivated. So this is where I think that Mars retrograde is a point in which you can ask very, very serious questions like what drives you to seek the spotlight, okay? Or what drives you to get attention, what drives you to get you what you want? And would you pursue something if you didn't care about other people's opinions? Would you be still on the same path? If others' people's opinions didn't matter, would this be what you're doing?
No, probably not. In the notes that you sent to me about Mars retrograde in Leo, you talked about embracing stillness as a recharge. And
put your paws on.
Put your paws on. Okay, got it. Okay, so I just wanted to call that out a little bit. That I think that stillness might feel frustrating during Mars retrograde, but I think if you go, no, this is exactly what I'm supposed to do, especially somebody who is addicted to busy,
right?
Who is like always in fight or flight, freeze, fawn mode. Stillness can feel like there's something wrong with the universe.
And I also think that it's about working on refining things that you're already doing in your life, whether that be projects or refining your relationships or refining who you see yourself as an individual. And I think that that's a great RE word for Mars retrograde, refine.
Refine. Oh, I like that. I'm writing that down. So I'm so ready for this Mars retrograde without even knowing it.
Yeah.
You know what else I got for myself?
What?
Paint by number for grown-ups.
Oh, you sent me a copy of that. I was very, very intrigued, girl. Now, are you patiently doing colors, like, for example, doing color 1 all over the thing and then color 2 all over the thing?
I started doing that and that didn't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's a 16 by 20 canvas and my eyes are not amazing. So I have to take my glasses off and get really focused. So I actually decided and also I'm left-handed. So I have to paint from right.
How did I not know that either?
Girl, I've been left-handed my whole damn life. I've talked about it all. So I have to paint in this paint by number, I have to paint from right to left. So I don't smear everything. But this is forcing me to have stillness. So I'm doing like a section of it and then eventually I'm like, but I want all of that flower to be colored in. And my Virgo ass started with the most complicated one, the most detailed one.
Do you want to hear about my crazy, I wasn't even thinking about this in regards to Mars retrograde, but it's so Mars retrograde.
Tell me.
I went online and, I was like, oh my God, because of school and, in the 80s and stuff, Jackie, we really couldn't afford a lot of music because you and I were, tiny tots.
I was listening to my brother's 70s music in the 80s.
We couldn't go out and buy an album. So what I have, that there were a lot of albums, especially in the early 80s, like, stuff from Blondie and REO Speedwagon and Styx and artists Pat Benatar, artists that were hugely popular that I've never listened to the whole albums. Of course, everybody knows Hit Me With Their Best Shot. Okay. But I wasn't in a place because, I could only afford to record stuff off the radio, with the little tape recorder.
My life. I was just going to talk about that.
That's how we got our music. We literally, for those of you that are quite younger than us, we literally had a radio. Okay. And it was usually some beat up radio that barely worked. Okay. And then you had a tape player that was like this. Yes. And you pushed these 2 buttons and you had this tape player next to the radio. And that's how you recorded music until boom boxes came out.
Well, and then also, but it's not that. I mean, getting a hold of a tape that can be recorded over. So you would get like the stuff that nobody's listening to. You would take a little nail polish remover and remove whatever was on there. And then you would tape the holes on the top.
Yes.
So you could record over whatever was on there.
Right. It was crazy. So
I just ran across a box of those and I laughed so hard I was crying. And they were horrible.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. But what I've done is I have decided that my mission over the next 2 years, Jackie, is I'm going to listen to every album that was the top 50 album from 1981 until the year 2000. So for the year, I got a list of every album that was the top 50 albums of the year.
Okay.
There's some places where it was in the top 50 for a couple of years, so I only have to listen to those ones. But I'm going to listen to all of it. And I was looking at some names of people that, I don't remember who Leo Sayer was.
I remember Leo Sayer. He's short. Leo Sayer was
he had an afro.
Yeah. I just remember him not people talking about how not, but he had some ballads. Oh, Storm, the ballads. Oh, Lord.
So him, Christopher Cross, I mean, a lot of artists that came out at that point. And, for example, I've heard the song Physical by Olivia Newton-John 793,000 times over the course of my life. Okay. It was the big number 1 song of the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I've never listened to the whole album.
Have you yet?
No. I mean, I just started. I'm in 1981. That's 1982.
I want to see this. I want you to publish this list.
I'm going to publish the list. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. So what would you?
So that's going to be my little. That's going to be my little. That's my putting my pause on.
All right.
So that's going to be my pause.
I was thinking about this Mars retrograde. So we have this really cool candle called Mars IDGAF, which is kind of how I felt this morning. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling so Mars today. Because I slept into the last minute. No, I laid in bed till the last minute, and then I'm like, yeah, I gotta get up now.
Oh, and let me say one thing before you get into Mars. When we created these particular candles, now the first candle that we created in the Astro Magic line as a test was the Mercury retrograde neutralizer candle. And then when we got to Venus and Mars and we were discussing, do we want to make a Venus retrograde neutralizer candle and a Mars retrograde neutralizer candle? We decided not to because they didn't go retrograde as frequently as Mercury. So these candles were created in a way that already addresses that issue.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead now.
So the Mars candle, not the Mars bar, but the Mars Astro Magic candle, IDGAF, which if you don't know what that stands for, it stands for I don't give a blank. So if we were to use, let's talk about a spell to use during
definitely.
Mars retrograde in Leo with a Mars candle.
Go girl, this is your domain. Go.
Yeah. So start with a candle. Of course, you're going to place it in an appropriate candle holder that's fire safe, on a place that is safe from any drapes, pets, blowing things that would catch on fire. Okay, so you get the candle in there, you sit down, and you start with a goal. I always write stuff down in my spells because it's something you can track back later. So write down your creative goal and the project that you want to revisit and to finish. And then light the candle. So write down the goal first because that's really important. Because when you light the candle, you're going to say a new thing. And you're going to say, flame of courage, ignite my heart. From stagnant shadows, let me restart. Authentic passion, burn and flow. In Mars retrograde, let my vision grow. And we will put this in the show notes too. So set up your candle, write down your creative goal, and then light the candle, say this chant. And then let the candle burn for about 15 minutes while you imagine your goal taking shape. Now, people talk about visualizing all the time, and some people say, I can't visualize. Well, you can't imagine. And imagination comes in a lot of different forms. It just can come as describing it.
Girl, they imagination, and let me stay on the Mars theme. They imagine like crazy while they masturbating, so they can do this. You know, my theory, if you can meditate, you can masturbate, you can meditate.
Right. But the other day somebody goes, I'm no good at visualizing. And I'm like, do you imagine things? They're like, I'm not really visually. I said, well, why don't you tell me about the favorite room in your house? Do you walk in from the left or right? And then they go through the whole thing about what's in the room and where it's, and like, you just visualized your room. So they thought, some people think visualization is like, oh, these great images come to me and flow to me like I'm in fantasy land. And like, nah, some of us visualize by going, I think it starts with the color blue, or I think it starts with it being rough, or what, and just start where you start and allow your imagination to build what this project will look like as it takes shape. Maybe it's the kitchen that you didn't finish painting or something like that.
Right.
So, and then sit with that for 15 minutes. And the reason why 15 is because you have passed that first 5 minutes was like, oh, what time is it? How long have I been doing this for? And then you go into the second 5 minutes where you go, okay, I can see this happening. And then you go into that third 5 minutes where it's like, oh, this is good. So if you get yourself to that 15 minutes, maybe do a little timer on your phone and sit there with it, because that's when it starts to get good. And if your timer gently beeps and you're still going, keep going.
Another thing I think that people can do if they have access to some of the AI image generators, Jacki, is they can also do imagination in that way also. So starting with what it is that they would like to imagine and putting in that particular type of a prompt.
Mhm.
And then just keep modifying it based on what you would like envisioned until you get to what it is that you want. And
Yeah.
that is a great way of
That's
doing that
fun.
also.
That's
And it's
fun.
fun.
I've done that with what will my life look like in 10 years? And it shows this really crazy multi-image thing.
Not only that, but your red hair was kind of washed out, girl. I mean, you look like the girl that Julianne Moore.
I showed you that one with the gray hair.
You look like Julianne Moore.
Yeah. Hey, I'll take it. I like Julianne Moore. Anyway, so that was, but what it brought in, were things about me, because it gave it the write-up of me.
Right.
And things about me I had forgotten about. And it was nice that it came into the whole part.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about Mars in retrograde. So when it's in Leo, and then it's going to go through a second sign, and that's Cancer, right?
Correct. That happens on January the 6th. It moves out of Leo and back into Cancer.
Okay, so and how long is it going to be in retrograde in Cancer?
It's going to be retrograde in Cancer until the 23rd of February. So we've got a whole 6-week period of it being in retrograde in the sign of Cancer.
Alrighty. That's a whole nother ballgame, though, isn't it?
It's a whole different ballgame.
All right.
And the reason being is that we have a very, very dynamic shift in energy from fire, which is about potential possibilities, the future, into water, which is about feelings, emotions, and our connections with other people.
All right. So Mars retrograde in Cancer, which is feelings and emotions and connections with other people. How does I'm a little stymied in this conversation, because I'm thinking about Cancer's caregiving and personal emotional security, and then Mars is retrograde in that sign. So this is like a lot of triggers.
It's very triggering, and you also have to remember that Mars in Cancer is in its fall. Okay, so whenever you have a planet that's in detriment, a little astrology lesson here. When you have a planet that is in detriment or in fall, it means that the planet is not working adequately. Okay, and it usually means that the more troubling aspects of the planet are going to be more easily accessible. So you're gonna find people are going to be excessively protective. Okay, almost paranoid protective. They're also going to be emotionally reactive. Okay, so whenever there is a point in which people are extremely emotionally reactive, that they're just hyper responding to everything. Okay, Mars in Cancer is going to be that 6-week window, and it's difficult because of the fact that it triggers a lot of unresolved emotional issues, and also a lot of these issues are related to family, they're related to home, they're related to our boundaries. We may feel that our boundaries are being pushed upon, even when they're not really being pushed upon, but we feel that they are.
So readers out there during this time, just remember you're going to get a lot of people talking about a lot of emotional stuff, love stuff, what's going on in my life stuff. So you're warned. Write it down in your calendar. This sounds like it's going to be a challenging time for family and relationships and love relationships.
On one aspect, yes. Okay. On the other aspect, it's when we're going through problems and difficulties. And I think that one of the things to remember is that Mars retrograde isn't really about external victories like it is when it's direct. Okay. It's more about internal realignments. So the things that are triggering you while Mars is retrograde in Cancer are going to be things that you really need to work on. It's going to bring up old emotional wounds, and it gives us an opportunity to reassess how we express anger and how we assert our boundaries and where our boundary line is and where it's not. And in some cases, people's boundaries may be too wound up.
I'm loving this. I love how you are flipping this idea on what's going to happen with Mars retrograde in Cancer, because it is about figuring out those boundaries. What are healthy, what are not boundaries. And you know what? It's making me think is that there's a big split in our country, in the U.S. Emotional split, and it's very political, and I'm not going to get into politics on this. I'm just talking about what that split is.
Well, you're more than welcome to explore, Jacki, the feeling undertone of why this is happening, because it's happening on both sides. It's not just happening on one side.
So what I see is that the conversations that I've been having with clients and with general people right now is how stressed they are about these boundaries, about what they mean, about how many people they feel they've lost in their life, about how they can't have conversations with different friends and family members about anything, and how slighted and how betrayed people feel on both sides. So this is interesting.
And one thing just to throw in there, because this may help you to understand what you're trying to articulate, Jacki. Mars is going to move into Cancer on January the 6th, which is the day, in January 6th in 2021 was during the insurrection in the Capitol. Okay. It's also when the Electoral College, when Congress certifies the Electoral College vote of who's going to be president of the United States. So all of the issues that had been percolating over this period, all of the people that had been kind of suppressing their emotional reaction to things over the holidays because they don't want to cause a fuss, or that they are trying to push things aside just to get through the particular holidays. All of these divides are going to come to the surface in that January the 6th time period and continue on straight through inauguration and into February, okay? So we've got a whole period in which the old wound, okay, is going to come up. The emotional triggers are going to come up. Conflicts in family and home life is going to come up. People are going to feel very stuck. They're going to feel very drained by unresolved emotions, because it's one thing to resolve your emotions, Jacki, when you're dealing with you, or you're dealing with you and your marriage, or you're dealing with you and your employees, or your or your teammates, or your children. It's very difficult to resolve the collective.
Oh, can we?
No, I don't think that we can.
Right.
I think that I think that we elect people, quote unquote, not to use such a term, but I think that we elect people to deal with collective matters for us, okay? And public figures and people on the world stage are who we elect as a collective, okay? And I think that that's one of the things that I've been telling people that have been having a time struggling with a lot of things at the moment, okay, is saying that oftentimes in order for us to get from point A to point B, we need the worst possible situation, okay, in order to get there. Sometimes the best possible situation isn't going to move us from point A to point B, okay? And I think that that's what's being resolved. And in the astrology of 2025, which I have been working on diligently, there are a lot of astrological situations that occur, Jacki, that reflect this very, for example, Uranus is going to move into Gemini. Every time Uranus has moved into Gemini, okay, we had the Revolutionary War, we had the Civil War, we had World War II. Okay, if it follows the same trend, there's the likelihood that we're going to get into some form of war, okay, or be involved
when is
in
that
some
happening?
form of war. That happens it starts in July, okay. Another one is that when Neptune moves into Aries, which it's going to do in April, okay, there seems to be this very strong almost mystical idealization of what it means to fight for what it is that we want. And the figure that I've been working on that, and I've just got done writing a blog about it, and I whispered it to you in Facebook Messenger, is that I use the image of Joan of Arc to explore Neptune in Aries. Okay, so we have all of these huge, big, gigantic movements that are going to occur then, and I think that because of these movements that are happening, it's very important that we deal with these particular issues that are lurking underneath the surface with Mars retrograde. It's dealing with the conflicts in family and home life. It's dealing with feeling stuck and drained. It's dealing with our emotional triggers.
So this is a time, I like how you said feeling stuck and drained, and then with the boundaries. So this is a time we can look at, like, we're going to be low energy, emotionally, physically, for 6 weeks. So maybe it's
exactly.
Maybe it's not the time to start the new workout.
I think that the
or maybe
prompt,
it is.
I think that the prompt that I think that people should work with, Jackie, as Mars is going through Cancer, is it's about protecting what matters the most to us. But I think that this retrograde asks us to get clear about what that is, what really matters to us at the end of the day.
Yeah, that is a great daily prompt for journaling. Doing some mindful journaling. I do have my new journal that I'm going to start taking pen to paper.
You want to know what is interesting is that I think this was in the dark night of my soul, Jackie, that you had sent me, because you know that I like to write, and you know that I like to journal and all of these things, and you sent me about 20 freaking composition notebooks with mysterious quotes in them.
Yes, I do remember that.
I still use those.
I love that.
I'm still using them now. I haven't gone through all of them.
I did send you quite a few.
Yeah, you did.
They were fun, though.
I know
you like
amazing.
composition books. They're cute.
And you loved making them for me. So
I did. And so what I did is I just randomly, hey, that's a great idea to do for myself. In random pages, I put different quotes and journal prompts and stuff. So when you got to it, you're like, oh, just know that Jackie's thinking of you.
Yeah, I mean, and that they were all the funny thing is that many of the things now, when I see those quotes, I've healed from them, because that was a while ago, a couple minutes. I find, but it's still that triggering. Oh my God, look at how far I've come. That, this is kind of where I'm at right now in my life in regards to it. Okay. Now and I think that, one of the things that I do suggest is mindful journaling, or even Jackie therapy. I think that if people are going through a lot of unresolved issues, yes, praise.
We need to give a little praise to therapy. So I'm sorry, I interrupted you. What are you saying?
I think that sometimes if the emotions are very, very deep and you really need to process them, don't be afraid of therapy. It works. I know I did it for years.
I do it still. It really does. Talk therapy is amazing because you have nothing to prove. You're just really getting insight on what you're talking about. And they stop you, and the therapist hopefully will stop you at different points and go, well, how do you feel about that? That's a really big thing you said. And, don't brush over that or don't laugh about it. And it really is amazing. I don't like the stigma that is still on therapy. So get over yourself and go get some.
I was going through the other day the first season of Keep It Magic, of which when we decided to do Keep It Magic, I told Jackie, I don't want to do radio anymore. I will do 10 episodes. This is the famous thing. Okay, we did 6 seasons, but I said I'll do 10 episodes to help you transition in a new co-host and all of this other stuff. Okay, and what we were talking about then, Jackie, which that was 2011, we were talking about the need for mental health reform. And I'm sad to say it's 2024 and it still has not happened.
Nope. No, it has not. And so
now, one of the things that I do think is encouraging, Jackie, about mental health reform, and this just kind of wowed me, is you know who Nick Cannon is, right?
Remind me.
He's the host of The Masked Singer. He was married to Mariah Carey.
Got it. Yeah.
He has like 14 kids. I don't know the exact amount. I know he has over 10. Okay, he has 10 kids. Well, he's just come out with the fact that he has the diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder. And I
Interesting.
have to lift my hat to him because, first of all, most people that have narcissistic personality disorder do not avail themselves to a therapist. Okay. And he is exploring and looking at the diagnosis and looking at why it is that he has the diagnosis and learning to look at that more mindfully. And I'm thinking that as more people like him come out and state, look, I've got this problem and I've got this issue, that maybe that the stigma attached to it is the way that it is. And one of the things, I was just talking to a client this morning, Jackie, in which I told her, I said, because she has me as her life coach, she has a therapist, and she has a psychiatrist. And I told her, I said, you need to be very honest with your therapist and you need to be very honest with your psychiatrist. Okay. Don't worry about feeling that you're going to disappoint people or be judged. The only way that people can help you is based upon what it is that you're telling them.
Exactly.
So if you're telling them everything's hunky-dory, they think that they're going on the right path with you. If they need to course correct, then you need to tell them so that they can do that, because what may be being addressed may not really be the problem. And I think that that's going to come up a lot during Mars and Cancer. As people are emotionally reactive, they're going to be reacting to triggers, but the problem may not be the trigger. It may be something that's much deeper rooted under there and maybe even connected to family of origin issues, because this is Cancer after all.
I mean, it really isn't most of the stuff we deal with in our therapy go back to family of origin. So, I mean, most. I'm not saying all. Because
I will have to say a good 80%. Yeah.
Yeah. So
the rest is our own bullshit that we need to take the responsibility for.
So what brings to mind as we're going through this conversation about Mars retrograde in Cancer is that this is a time to nurture yourself,
mm-hmm.
to nest, to cook, to create some cozy spaces, to maybe paint some walls, or it's too cold to garden, but not that I like gardening, but maybe do some indoor plants, things that really get you comfy, cozy, and nurture yourself. And nurturing
mm-hmm.
yourself isn't just about, like, self-care isn't just about, taking a bubble bath with bonbons. It's about making sure you've done your food prep, and that you're set for the week, or you grocery shopped, or that all your laundry's done and your house is clean, and it makes you feel a little bit better.
Right. Now, Jackie, is there a ritual or a spell that you can recommend in regards to using the Mars Astro Magic candle for the sign of Cancer, like you did with the sign of Leo?
To do this, we did craft something for this, and to do this, you really need to create an emotional balance and strengthen your boundaries at the same time. So you're balancing your own emotions and then creating boundaries around that, so that are strong, so that you can really continue to process your own emotions and stay in balance. So I would take that Mars Astro Magic candle, because that helps balance out that retrograde. So the Mars Astro Magic candle, a bowl of water that represents Cancer's element next to it, and then a stone that is very watery, like a very emotional, like moonstone or carnelian. And then that's where you feel emotionally vulnerable. I like moonstone the best, but carnelian is great as if you're feeling a loss of personal power.
Mm-hmm. That's the fiery Mars energy. Yeah.
Right. And actually, I'd say both the moonstone and the carnelian. I think they would be very interesting together. I've not used them together, but I think that would be great for this Mars retrograde in Cancer. So get those all together, light the candle, hold the moonstone in one hand, the carnelian in the other, maybe flip to see which ones feels best in which hand. And then a simple chant. By Mars' flame and Cancer's tide, emotions flow, yet I confide. Strength and softness, courage and care, boundaries protect, my heart is aware. And I'll put that in the show notes, so you don't have to quickly write that down. But having that little chant, write it down for yourself. Maybe even after the spell, put the stones, wrap the stones in that little chant, carry that with you so you can open it up and look at it anytime. So once you've said that chant, and I like for people to say it like 3 times, 5 times, or 7 times, that odd number is really good.
Jackie's just odd.
I am odd, but it gets you into the flow. And then you pour the water from this spell that you're doing into the earth, outside or in a plant. I like outside best, as a release of emotional burdens. So you're marrying the earth and the water in there. And so carry those stones with you, and then as well as that little chant. And then when you're starting to feel really off center, when you're starting to feel like overly emotional, pull them out, hold the stones in your hand, say the chant. And then when you get home at the end of the day, relight the candle, because you never want to leave a burning candle unattended. Relight the candle, do it again to rebalance you after you went through your real life, everyday process.
Mm-hmm. I think that with both of these retrogrades, looking specifically at the sign of Leo and Cancer and trying to amalgamate them into some form of usable way, Jacki, I think that the Leo retrograde focuses on ego, creativity, and external recognition, while the Cancer retrograde centers on emotions, family, and internal security. And I love that internal security, because all of us are aggressively trying to feel physically secure. Do we have the right house? Do we have the right automobile? Do I have enough money in the bank? Do I have enough food to eat? Do I have proper health care? Mm-hmm. Is my health in a place where it needs to be? Which I think that moving forward, people need to really take a look at. Okay, if there was any point,
I think that's what's happening right now, and that that this is right in line with, maybe this is why this is happening right now. Right. But yeah, I'm in agreement.
It's part of it. And I think that one of the things that people should be really focused on moving forward is we're learning very, very quickly that we don't have much control over the political manifestations that occur or how those operate. What I think that we are starting to learn is that we do have control over ourselves. So I think that, one of the things, although that, you can't control much in the outer world beyond your own boundaries, I think that there are proactive things that you can do. Like, right now, more so than anything else, I think that people should really focus on getting their health in a capacity that they're happy with.
Yeah. Oh, so yes, absolutely. So this is that very much that internal focus, like you said, with Mars. It's more of an internal focus. And I see that Mars retrograde in Leo teaches us how to be boldly honest with ourselves, which is a little uncomfortable, but really honest with what's going on. And then as it moves into retrograde in Cancer, it teaches us emotional resilience and how to protect ourselves emotionally. Mm-hmm. So I think we have some powerful lessons that we're going to be going through. Put your big girl panties on and
and your big boy boxers.
Yeah. Time to really, instead of being victimized by astrology and saying, oh, Mars is retrograde, oh, woe is me, saying, okay, this is what
Mars is retrograde, this is what I need to do.
This is what I need to do. This is the challenge. This is the opportunity in front of me to learn what I need to learn. I honestly, I'm kind of looking forward to it, because I've been really, 2024 has been very shaky ground for me. Mm-hmm. So this is the process that I'm going through right now, is to be boldly honest with myself, make the changes I need to make, etc. So this is really going to help speed that along.
I think that also, because Mars goes retrograde every 2 years, that we get a 2-year window to proactively look at, has the actions we've been taking, are they working? Are they not working? And if they're not working, what can I do to change them?
Exactly.
And the signs, Leo, and Cancer are giving the clues of what needs to be changed. Leo is to fire creative reflection, okay? And Cancer is to heal emotional wounds. And I think that by doing that, it will help you when Mars moves direct on February the 23rd. Then you can start acting again. You can start moving and expressing this new changed you in the external world.
So there's a way to bring these two in balance.
Tell me. I need a spell, girl.
So bringing these two in balance as you're going through that shift from Leo to Cancer, where Mars is retrograde, and you align the lessons and harness their transformational power and their potential. So again, we're going to have that Astro Magic candle for Mars. Put that in the center. You have that golden object, which represents Leo on one side, and then the bowl of water, which represents Cancer on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And light the candle, and then have these two things, like bringing it into balance, and a little charm that you could say. And you can say this during that transition time as many times as you need to. Mars, guide me through reflection's light. Ignite my courage, shield my night. In Leo's fire and Cancer's wave, I rise renewed, bold, and brave. And when you're doing a ritual, you want to sit with that chant, that charm that you said, for a good 10, 15 minutes. Just sit with it and let yourself integrate that. Like, think about that. What does this mean? What does it mean to shield my night? What does it mean to rise renewed, bold, and brave? And just meditate on that. And again, that first 5 minutes is going to be like, oh, what time is it? Is this over yet? And then it takes that next 5 minutes to transition into going deeper. And then that next 5 minutes to listening to that inner voice, actually shutting up the outer voice, the neurotic voice that we all have, and just flowing and hearing the divine. So that meditation is important. You still with me, Storm?
I would recommend people, especially Jacki, if they are really wanting to process this in a proactive way, to start that ritual there around the 3rd or the 4th of January, and continue that ritual up until like the 8th or the 9th, so that you have both the Mars in Leo and the Mars in Cancer energy together. Okay. That I think will help to integrate the particular energies in an extremely proactive sort of way. Because one thing that I want to remind people is that retrograde are cosmic pauses. They invite us to refine, recharge, and refocus, and use them that way.
Absolutely. We always talk about retrograde as the you get to go back and look back at what you need to remember, what you need to process. And this was a lot of information that we gave everyone. So if you have any questions, or if you have information on your retrograde experiences, hit us up. I mean, Curse Breakers is on social media. So you just look up Curse Breakers, and then in the show notes, there's ways to email us, send us questions. And there's also a way to sign up for our calendar.
Yes.
And then you can find us on Storm and myself on all kinds of social media stuff. And then in the next episode, we're going to explore the upcoming full moon and all of its astrological divineness.
The full moon in Gemini. No, that's not correct. But yeah, it is correct. The full moon in Gemini. So cruise on over to www.coventrycreations.com if you have a problem in your life, regardless of what that problem is. We most likely have a candle for that. In fact, I'm definitely sure we have a candle for that. I can be found at Storm Cestavani pretty much everywhere except Facebook. I'm facebook.com/astro gossip, because astrology is my thing and I like to talk about it. Jacki, where can they directly find you?
You can find me through Coventry Creations or Coventry Candles on all the socials. It's easier to find than trying to find the random Jacki Smith out there. So look up Coventry Creations or Coventry Candles at any of the socials and send us a note. I'll get it.
Definitely. And again, Do not be worried about your questions. Do not be afraid to ask us the questions. If you write in your little note that you don't want us to use your name, we won't use it. So if you have a question, make sure to ask us. That's the way that we can help you. We can help you remove these curses from your life and get you headed in the right direction. And Jackie, till the next episode, what do they need to do?
Keep it magic.
Speak life, everybody. Have a great retrograde.